Welcome back to the Takeout. So good to have you with us. A new Justice Department memo came out last night. It says President Trump can assert executive privilege with so-called private advisors. These protections historically have been limited to executive branch employees. New York Democratic Congresswoman Grace Meng joins me now. She sits on the House Appropriations Committee, and if Democrats take a majority in the new Congress, she would be the chair of the Appropriations Subcommittee that oversees the Justice Department. So you are a very good guest to evaluate this memo and some other Justice Department related issues. So what do you think about this memo, Congresswoman?
Hi, thanks, Major, for having me, and thank you for addressing this important issue. And this is an issue that unfortunately is not a surprise to many of us. We expected something like this to happen. That's why we pushed back against now Attorney General Blanche from getting confirmed. We knew that instead of acting as the attorney for the United States of America and its people, that he would act on behalf of one person, which is President Donald Trump. And we want to make sure that there is oversight. I will be, if and when the House wins back Democratic majority, we will oversee Department of Justice funding. And this is not something that the Department of Justice should be doing. They are working overtime to protect expected potential investigations into how President Trump has benefited.
And what would the implication be for any president, this or future ones, if all of their conversations with people who do not work in the executive branch are suddenly covered under executive privilege?
Well, my question and the question that many American people have is what is President Trump and what is the administration trying to hide? Of all the problems that the administration should be dealing with, this is one of his first actions after he is confirmed. It is clear that he is expecting potential investigations into the president, into the administration, and what wrongs may have been committed. And why else would he sign something like this?
So back in June, you asked Todd Blanche to put in writing that the anti-weaponization fund, so-called, is dead. He refused in testimony to you. He has subsequently done that and therefore won Senate confirmation. You've read the document he signed and that he put in writing. Are you satisfied that the anti-weaponization fund is in fact dead?
Honestly have been skeptical since the beginning. It was in front of my subcommittee when he first announced publicly to the country that he would not be pursuing setting up that fund. But at the moment, he refused to commit that in writing. And then on the eve of him attempting to get confirmed by the United States Senate is when he magically and suddenly decided that he wanted to put it in writing. So let me be clear that the fight is not over. When House Democrats take back the majority, it will not only be under my subcommittee, it will be my responsibility and obligation to make sure that people know that the fight is not over. Congress has an oversight obligation, whether it's through hearings, whether it's drafting language in our budget, explicit, specific riders that ban a fund, whether it's the fund that was written in the way it was or variations of this fund that may appear creatively in other formats from being implemented.
Let me just follow up on that with you, Congresswoman, because as you know, there is an existing tort fund. If an American citizen is wronged by the federal government, they can apply and sometimes receive compensation. That exists. Some reporting already suggests that some allies of the president have already availed themselves of money through that existing fund. Would you put scrutiny on that as well and try to fence it off in some way if you become the majority party with exercise control over appropriations?
I think all options are on the table. And when we are in the majority and when Hakeem Jeffries is our speaker, that is absolutely our responsibility to look at that. And one of the things that we were upset about was that this fund would be dedicated towards January 6 insurrectionists, people who beat and attacked law enforcement officers in the people's house.
One last question, very quickly on politics. Reporters are sometimes blamed by politicians for obsessing over intra-party divisions, but they do appear real right now. What would you say is the unity concept of the Democratic Party and this friction between so-called establishment and insurgent Democrats?
You're probably referring to a lot of the primaries that are happening across the country at all levels of government. This is something that we see every year, every cycle. Primaries are a normal and typical part of our democratic process. And as we saw most recently in the state of Michigan, after the primary, there was a beautiful demonstration of unity. What is most important is not the intra-party fights that are happening. They are ways for us to work together, learn from each other, and improve the responsiveness and effectiveness of our party. But what's most important is to fight back against the real enemy, which is the Republican Party and this administration in November.
New York Democratic Congresswoman Grace Meng, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.